This video is brought to you by patreon.com/worsttake. Get access to exclusive live streams and Discord servers, on-screen shoutouts, and early access to some videos when you join now. Help make sure that we can continue to make content like this by supporting the Patreon. Links are in the description down below. You know, we're about a quarter through the season. The way the NFL does it these days, where they have that 17-game season, it's hard to break this thing down into good, clean fours like we used to, right? But every time we get to the quarter part of the season, I want to bring in somebody who can represent each division member to talk about where they are at. And as disappointing as the AFC North has had a start to the season, I do find it interesting how close this division still is. Like, it seems like everybody's gotten off to a not ideal start in the first part of the season. Like, even the team that started out hot, Pittsburgh, came out slow. I mean, I don't think any team's been through more of a roller coaster than Baltimore, because I remember watching one of your videos, looking at the comment section, and everybody was like, hey, man, it's time for Farball to go, right? I was like, wow. Whoa, what's going on? And now Baltimore sitting here, we're talking about Lamar possibly winning his third MVP, and Baltimore possibly winning this division again.
Yeah, it's definitely been crazy. It's been crazy. We got off to that 0-2 start, and yeah, it was looking ugly, because and the reason why so many people were like saying to fire Harbaugh is because we tired of seeing a lot of the same stuff, and we feel like these teams that the Baltimore Ravens have had and put together, like, these teams should have been teams that go and win all the way. Obviously, you can't win it every single year, and that's not an expectation. But we look at 2019, where they started the season 2-2, and then they went on a 12-game win streak, had a number one seed, looking like the best team in football, and then they broke so many records on the ground that year running, and then they get to the playoffs and they decide, you know what? We're not going to run with our running backs in this playoff game. For what? What's the point? So, and they didn't even try. And then we see the same exact thing happen last year in the AFC Championship. Like, Ravens are rolling through teams. They're doing a great job. They get, a 13-4 record, looking like the best team in the NFL. Offense is clicking. Defense is clicking. It's like, oh, yeah, we got this. This is really going to be our year. Everything was going good as far as injuries. But then in the AFC Championship, the same thing happened that happened the last time too. So we just tired of seeing the same old stuff. And then in those first two games of the season this year, we just saw a lot of tendencies from John Harbaugh. I mean, we still seeing some of those tendencies in wins too. That's why a lot of Ravens fans have been fed up. But we know at the beginning and end of the day, John Harbaugh's not going anywhere. John Harbaugh, I don't think will ever get fired from the Baltimore Ravens. I think John Harbaugh is going to end up, if he didn't get fired yet, if he ain't get released yet, and he's been close. I remember 2018, he got close. But if he didn't get fired yet, then I don't think he ever will. And he's going to walk out on his own terms. Then that's whether Ravens fans like it or not.
Yeah, especially not in the middle of the season, right? Like, he's gotten to the point where he'll go out with dignity. One of the things I think you mentioned there is like this idea of winning on your own or going out on your own terms, right? And I think that's what the frustration is with Baltimore fans, right? You're not feeling like you're giving your best punch when you lose. You feel like you just went in there with a bad strategy, or you feel like you don't progress far enough as you should have, right? Like, at least a conference championship game. So I can understand that frustration there. When you look at this Ravens defense, I look at them as a unit that has been a lot more porous than we've expected, right? I mean, we talked about this in the AFC North. All these defenses that were amazing last year just aren't right now. Even Pittsburgh, who look like they might be one of the best defenses in the NFL, you look at what they've done the last 2 weeks against Indy and Dallas, two teams that have struggled offensively. And you start to wonder, like, hey, what's going on here? But when you look at Baltimore, I never thought I would imagine I would see a Baltimore divisional game where the over would be at like 80.
Well, that game was crazy, man. It was crazy, and I did not think it was gonna go like that at all. I don't think anybody did. But I mean, it was nice to see that offense being put on display, and the defense. Oh boy, they were just all kinds of bad. But that's what it's been for the most part. with Ravens pass defense this year. Right now, they got the number one rushing defense. They got the number one rushing offense and number one rushing defense, but they definitely ain't been defending the pass like at all. It's been for a number of reasons. Number one, Zach Orr, a brand new defensive coordinator, never been a defensive coordinator before, and that's not to say that he's unable to get the job done, but we expected there to be struggles, especially early on in the season. I told Ravens fans before the season started, we got to give it probably 6-7 games to really see how he is, really look for his tendencies, really look at the stuff that he likes, how he adjusts with his personnel, and what he does. And we've been seeing some stuff, but we got to give it a couple more games to really, really see. And it has been rough in some areas. It's been nice in some areas. I think there's been a lot of communication breakdown amongst players. You see Eddie Jackson. Eddie Jackson, who the Baltimore Ravens signed this offseason. He's a newcomer in the Ravens defense. He's been struggling a lot. A lot of times when there's a big play, it tends to be on his side of the field. So with Eddie Jackson, hoping that he can just get adjusted to everything. Tackling hasn't really been too big of an issue. It was a bit in that game against the Bengals this past week because one of Jamar Chase got probably one of the easiest touchdowns that he's ever going to get because Joe Burrow threw him a quick pass. Joe Burrow snapped the ball, threw it straight to Jamar Chase, and Jamar Chase missed one tackle, missed another one, and then boom, he was off. So Ravens made it easy for him. But I think the biggest issue has been not putting people in positions to have success. I know your favorite Baltimore Ravens linebacker, somebody who you absolutely adore, somebody who you absolutely love, and ROQUAN Smith. He has
well-known supporter of ROQUAN Smith here. You beat me to it. I was about to ask you. I was like, hey, look, man, we said that when TJ McDonald got here, it took a little while for that to get together, but also ROQUAN Smith came with it. Now it's another defensive coordinator. It looks like this. Does it make you question the whole ROQUAN impact that we kind of gave him credit for? We're fixing Pat Queen in the defense there, or do you think just losing guys like Deshaun Elliott and these other pieces that might have been around the TJ McDonald system, including TJ McDonald himself, do you think that's just taking its toll on Baltimore?
I just feel like with ROQUAN Smith, he just seemed really sluggish this season so far. It seems like he's out of shape. I don't know if there's something that we may not know about, but he just seems really off. I did think he was pretty good last year and even the year before that, and he did make it an immediate impact when the Baltimore Ravens initially traded for him a couple of years ago. But this year it hasn't been there. Now he did look better than he's looked in the previous 4 weeks. Last week against the Bengals, but still, he's been struggling big time. I don't know if it's the defensive coordinator putting too much on his plate. I don't know if he's just out of shape, but something is off with ROQUAN Smith, and they got to get it right. Like Trent Simpson. Go ahead.
Do you think that it's possible? Because like we talk about linebackers being the same thing on defense as a running back, as far as like the hits that they take, and we tend to understand this concept with running backs where like they age fast. Like 27 might be young for a different position, but it might be old for the linebacker position. And we're seeing guys like Devin White get out the league pretty early. Shaq Leonard, another premier linebacker, pretty much out the league before he's 30. Do you think this is just like we're not really thinking about it like that, but he's 27? Like, do you think he's just getting older at that linebacker position? You're just starting to see the effects of that.
I never thought about that before. Wow. That's something. Because I think, what did he get drafted in 2018, I believe? Something like that. But yeah, he's been playing for a while. But I never thought about that before. Because, yeah, they do obviously take a whole lot of hits. They in the mix for a lot of tackles. Very, very physical position. I mean, football a physical sport, but linebacker certainly. Because you're going
especially a dude like ROQUAN, who's a gap filler, right? Like, it's one thing when you're Fred Warner, you're kind of a coverage guy, and you get in the gap every once in a while. But ROQUAN's like, as much as I clown on ROQUAN at times, his job is to gap fill, right? His job is to get into that A and smash like he's a defensive tackle at times. And I always wonder, like, what's the longevity of guys who do that? Because like you don't really see guys over 30 being able to do that much longer.
And that's a really, really good question and a good point. I think with ROQUAN, yeah, I think it's just been a mix of things. But I do feel like Zach Orr, he's a big part of it because this is a brand new defense. It's the first time as defensive coordinator. But with that, like I remember watching this game on Sunday, and I get it. You want to mix stuff up. You don't want just the same people doing the same thing all the time. Because there have been times when he'll send Trenton Simpson in on a blitz, and Trenton Simpson, he's fast. He got some good speed to him. But then there was another time where he sent ROQUAN Smith on a blitz, and I was like, oof, this this is rough. But maybe he's just trying to throw Joe Burrow off a little bit. But yeah, he just been off. So again, to me, I think he may be like maybe a bit out of shape, maybe, and he just looks a bit heavier too. So maybe that's it, and hopefully that's it. So with these next couple of games, he shed some weight and practice and whatnot, and get back to being the ROQUAN Smith that we all love and adore. But he's certainly been struggling, and it's really impacted just the middle of the field for the Baltimore Ravens defense, because guys have been running wide open. Guys in areas that ROQUAN Smith has been assigned to, like even Trent Simpson, their second year linebacker. He has looked a lot better, like in pass defense and pass coverage, than a ROQUAN Smith. And ROQUAN, he shouldn't be covering no receivers like that, especially for no extended period of time during a play. But like Trent Simpson, when he's asked to do something like that, he just looks a lot better and a lot more comfortable doing it. So I think it's just a matter of Zachary Orr, Ravens defensive coordinator, getting these guys, putting them in positions to have success. Because there's also another linebacker, Malik Harrison, who we have, who when he's in pass coverage, it's rough. It's rough. That's not his specialty. His specialty is setting the edge, stopping the run, but it is not in pass coverage. So I think it's a matter of Zach Orr just getting a better feel for his players as time goes on.
I think it's also an interesting transition too, because like I think they're asking a little bit different things out of their linebackers right now, and the
Yeah.
Ravens have for such a long time used their linebackers, even their stand-up guys, with this. Like I know me and Sonny make the joke all the time that this Ravens always have a pass rushing committee, not necessarily like one person who does it, but
It's
they've
true.
always flipped these guys in and out around the line of scrimmage, and now you're asking these guys to cover a little bit more space,
Mm.
and it's kind of like you don't want to switch defensive coordinators as much as the Baltimore Ravens have had to. And it's not because of bad reasons, right? Wink Martindale was there. He was fine. But then you switch him out with TJ McDonald, and then that really works well. You get, what, 2 seasons out of him before he gets a job and he goes elsewhere. And just it takes years to start to replenish that roster. And if you're the general manager for the Ravens, you're like, you've been picking for different GM, for different defenses each time you've been out there. So now you got guys that you drafted 3 years ago to play in 3 years that you drafted for a different defense than what they're going to be playing in, you know?
Mm. Yeah, that's a good point, man. Yeah, well, with Mike McDonald, with him, a lot of Ravens fans were hoping, especially just watching him come up through the pipeline and whatnot, him work his way up, him leaving to go to Michigan for a little bit, then the Ravens bringing him right back. A lot of us were hoping like, all right, hey, this could be the one that takes over when John Harbaugh steps down. Actually, a lot of people were hoping for a sort of Pete Carroll type of thing, to
Mm.
where John Harbaugh end up sort of retiring and then going into the front office for the Ravens, and then Mike McDonald end up taking over as head coach. Because we watched Mike McDonald and we saw everything that he did. We saw how he grew. We saw how he put players on defense in position to really succeed. We saw him get the best out of people like Kyle Hamilton, ROQUAN Smith. We saw the Baltimore Ravens actually have a consistent pass rush, and that's something that we have been hoping for years. We had Wink for the longest, and Wink, he was not a bad defensive coordinator, but when it came to his personnel, he just didn't have a good feel for his personnel and just put guys in a lot of bad positions. But with Mike McDonald's defense, I think the biggest thing that we loved about Mike McDonald was his ability, not only ability, because ability, anybody got ability, but when you actually use it, when you actually reach that potential, well, we saw Mike McDonald do that when it came to making adjustments. There will be some times where he will wait to the second half to make adjustments. There'll be some times where he would just wait to the second quarter. He would get it done like right away. So Mike McDonald, the way that he adjusted to what those offenses were doing, it was amazing to watch it. So we were thinking like, oh my goodness, him as a defensive coordinator, he's amazing. Imagine those adjustments with him having an even greater role on the Baltimore Ravens team as a possible and potential head coach. But of course, he ended up going to the Seahawks. And he got the same record as the Ravens right now. They're sitting at 3-2 right now. So he's doing all right over there for now. But it's a new job, new position, new teams, new personnel, new everything. But he's doing solid so far. But with Zach Orr taking over for him, one thing that we expected was that Zach Orr was going to incorporate a lot of what Mike McDonald did. And some he has, and then he, of course, put his own spin on things too. So it's been a big adjustment process for everybody.
Just how good is Lamar Jackson playing right now?
Mm. Hey, that man is he's crazy. He is crazy good, especially just with everything that he is able to do to make something out of nothing. I think a lot of times we there's a stat that says Lamar Jackson, the Ravens offensive line has either I think the second least sacks given up when it came to pass blocking, something like that. But so much of that is on Lamar Jackson, because if it was a lot of other quarterbacks, then they would have been sacked a lot more times, being behind the offensive line. Granted, the offensive line has been playing better, but still Lamar Jackson makes a lot of stuff happen, and he is taking care of the ball. He's making plays happen. The one interception that he has this season, it sucks because, and I saw a commentator say this one time while I was watching the game. I forgot whether it was ESPN or whatever, but it doesn't matter. But a commentator said they wish that there was a stat where there was an interception that's the quarterback's fault versus an interception that is the wide receiver or somebody else's fault, the pass catcher's fault. And Lamar threw the one interception that he threw perfect pass to Rashad Bateman, hit him right in the hands. He dropped it. And Robert Spillane, former Pittsburgh Steeler, but current Las Vegas Raider, he picked it off. So it's frustrating, but Lamar Jackson has been really taking care of the ball. He does have a couple of fumbles now. And in this past game against the Bengals, two fumbles. One of them almost cost the game. One of them was probably the play of the year so far. So two different extreme fumbles. But then he had a fumble against the Bills the week before.
What do you make? Because like Lamar Jackson, as good as he is, he has two constants about him. He's going to get food poisoning at some point, and he's going to fumble the ball a little bit, right? Like, what do you make of that with Lamar? Like, when that's like the consistent things about him, the food poisoning thing, there's really no answer to, but like the fumbling, it's been a consistent thing because we've talked about this for a while.
It's just cleaning it up. It's something that's fixable. Now, his first couple of fumbles this season, like the first one, it came on a blindside hit in the pocket from, I think, Chris Jones. But Chris Jones was lined up on our rookie right tackle, and he just straight up beat him from jump of the play, and made Lamar fumble. But his fumble in the Bills game is just inexcusable. That was all on him. Mark Andrews did miss a block, but still, it was all on Lamar, that fumble. And then, of course, these two fumbles, they were completely on Lamar Jackson, too, because they weren't bad snaps. They weren't low snaps or anything. Hit him right in the hands. He was calling for the ball. He just took his eyes off the ball for a split second. But with his fumbling, it's all things that can be cleaned up. I mean, minus the blindside hits, those you just can't really do nothing about as a quarterback. But the ones where if he's fumbling a snap, that can be cleaned up. If he's fumbling while he's running, that can be cleaned up too. But the fumbles are inexcusable, and it's important that he gets them cleaned up ASAP, because it could cost you big time, because it almost did this past Sunday.
Last thing I'm going to ask you about is Derrick Henry. You've seen two versions of this experiment, right? I think the first couple of weeks we saw what, some people like me were thinking might happen, where it's like, oh, he's not adjusting well to this. The Ravens are trying to like run it with him down on wide zone, and he's not having the kind of production you would want or the carries that you would want out of him. And then there's this other version of this that's happened in the Ravens offense where he's running for 200 yards almost, right? And he's looking like the dream might be true with the Derrick Henry. Where do you think this settles with him in the 2024-25 season for Derrick Henry?
I mean, he's been doing amazing, especially these past 2-3 games. He's really the consistency's it's been there, especially with how the Baltimore Ravens have been using him. I know that first game against the Chiefs, they kind of got away from him because they went to him early, but the game started slipping away. So they were doing a lot more passing, so he was less involved. One thing that they've done a much better job of with Derrick Henry these past 2-3 weeks is not letting him be a tail on what they're going to do. Oftentimes you saw it in Tennessee, and you saw it even early this season with the Ravens. If Derrick Henry's on the field, 99% of the time, it's a run. He's off the field, 99% of the time, it's a pass.
It's also like, I think week 1, they were putting Lamar under center, which was like, hey guys, we're running the ball. Like a big red flag to say that, because they were in like a 13 personnel. I'm like, I've never seen the Ravens in that. They're usually like in pistol when they want to run something like this, because they want to like flare out the Mark Andrews.
Yeah, and but over these past couple of weeks, they've been getting so less predictable when it comes to Derrick Henry, and they've been involving him in the passing game too at times. So it's been really, really nice to see. But one thing that I will say about Derrick Henry, obviously Lamar Jackson for the Baltimore Ravens, got to be Superman, got to do this, got to do that, got to be the leading passer, got to be the leading rusher. There's so much that he does for the Ravens. It's been nice to see a lot of what Lamar Jackson does be alleviated by somebody like Derrick Henry. Lamar Jackson's obviously an elite player, but it's nice to have an elite player alongside him with Derrick Henry. because that just takes so much pressure off Lamar. That allows Lamar's job to be easy, allows Todd Monken's job to be easy, allows a lot of people's job to be a lot easier with all of what Derrick Henry has been doing.
Just such a large person too. Like every time you see him in a shotgun snap, you're like, my goodness, he's bigger than Lamar Jackson. Like,
yeah,
like you think Lamar Jackson, Bryce Young, the way that he like towers over him. He's like, this is a giant, and he wears his gear to look bigger, right? Like this is somebody who enjoys feeling like I'm 6'4", right? Like he is huge there. And it's like not Gus Johnson, but Gus Edwards on steroids there for the Baltimore Ravens, which is what I feared it could become, but what I thought it wouldn't. But Graven, always happy to have you on to check in about the Ravens, man. Anything else you want to say before you get out here?
Hey, man, I don't know what's going on over there in Cleveland with Deshaun Watson. It's been rough, man. I've been seeing stuff. I said, man, what is happening? Like, and he has this thing about him, especially like on fourth down plays where you gotta get it, and he'll just do like something silly, like it's almost like he's like trolling or something like that. What is happening over there?
What's happening with Deshaun? Yeah. I've been trying to figure it out all year. I can't explain it. He's just not good right now. Like that's just what it is. It's not an injury. He's healthy, right? Apparently he's healthy. He's had a full camp, mini camp. So like the rust stuff, I don't really care for that whole argument with Deshaun. The whole thing about he's not comfortable in the offense. We brought over Ken Dorsey in the off season to run stuff that he's comfortable with, to do things that he's comfortable with. I mean, this offense is more custom made around him than any offense he's been in his NFL career. So, I mean, maybe he just stinks. Like, I just can't. It's not really a great explanation for it. But yeah, it's bad. Look, it's going viral how bad he was. Against Washington, and that doesn't normally happen for no reason. Like usually there's enough actually guys in the film breakdown community be like, well, it wasn't that bad, right? Nobody has said anything other than what it was. I mean, you're familiar with Pro Football Focus grades. He had a 40 PFF grade and he threw no interceptions and had no turnover worthy plays. You know how bad you got to play? You got a 40 and you didn't even get the things that usually take the points off.
That's crazy.
It's alarming, to be honest. So we'll see what happens with Deshaun for the rest of the season, if he gets the rest of the season. But I've called it. The whole experiment's over. We're just waiting for the paperwork. Right, like it's done. Like the situation's done for. We're just waiting to see what happens afterwards and how fast we're gonna actually get to it. But there's no way you drop a game like that and you get back to playing at a top 5 level. I mean, like it's a wrap, man. I mean, it'd be a miracle if he gets to top 20 at this point. So that's just where they're at, man. You want to trade?
That's tough, man.
You want to trade?
Now, speaking of trades, what do you think happens with Amari Cooper? You think he gets moved, or you think he stays, or what?
I think I would like to see what Amari looks like if Deshaun's not playing quarterback. Right? Like, is it the offense that Amari doesn't fit in anymore? Is it the quarterback that can't find him? Is it Amari who can't get open? I don't have a good answer to that because sometimes I watch and the quarterback's not getting the ball to Amari. Sometimes I watch and the quarterback and the wide receiver aren't on the same page. Sometimes I watch and Amari's not catching the ball. Or Amari's not getting the separation I'm used to seeing him get. So I really would like to see what he looks like with a different quarterback in there. Because he's had a good game this year against against New York. So I would like to see what he looks like with a good quarterback in there. Or not even a good quarterback, just a different quarterback in there before I make a judgment. Like if he doesn't look good with Jameis, I already know he's not going to look good with DTR. You might as well get your value out of him if you can get anything. But if it's just like he looks bad with Deshaun, I mean, maybe you make an analysis on where you're at. You can still make the playoffs this year at 1-4 with how tight the AFC is. So it's a question of like, hey, how hard do you want to try to make the playoffs? And if I'm the Browns, you might as well try your hardest to make the playoffs, right? Because why not?
Yeah. Okay. I feel you. So we'll be watching for that one because, of course, we've been everything about Devontae Adams, but I know like guys like DeAndre Hopkins and Amari Cooper been other names that have been out there too.
Yeah, the Browns ain't never traded them to the Ravens though.
Oh yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't have.
But it would open up the market a little bit, right? If he could take a Devontae Adams target off the board for y'all. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see how this all plays out. But if you guys ever want to trade us Lamar Jackson, we will gladly do it. We'll gladly do it. You know, trade us Lamar Jackson. We'll take John Harbaugh too, since y'all want to fire him. You know, we just swap it out. Swap it out.
That'd be something, man. But no, hey, I appreciate you having me on, man. This was fun as always.
Y'all have a great day, man. Stay safe. Everybody else watching, have a great day. Have a better night. Peace.